The United Arab Emirates continues a streak of daily infections below 100 per day as government announces 78 new cases of COVID infections which were recorded last night. The country's National Emergency Crisis and Disaster Management Authority also announced a total of 21,172,758 doses of COVID vaccines have been administered in the country so far. Residents and tourists alike say this has boosted their confidence, particularly as the World Expo is ongoing and continues to attract visitors daily. Our correspondent Maiwa Deguke tells us more.
UAE is fast returning to normalcy, but government says wearing of face masks remain important alongside other precautions. Event season is back in full swing with the Expo 2020 and several other events holding across the country.
I feel so safe because everyone is taking precaution. People have masks and they are vaccinated. So I worry not.
Number of daily new infections have been below 100 in the last 2 weeks, a feat the government credits to the commitment of the people and its vaccination campaign.
I think now that the majority of people are getting vaccinated and like you enter Dubai, you need to have the PCR test. I think it's time that the country can open up a bit more and like people can have this exchange because I think it was really missing the last years.
In a fresh ease on restrictions, local authority says more guests will now be allowed in weddings and other events held at home. 80% capacity of not more than 60 individuals are allowed to attend provided they have been vaccinated and they meet the Green Pass requirement through the dedicated COVID app. Attendees must also present a negative PCR test taken in 48 hours before the date of event.
I can't be more appreciated for everything happened during this crisis and their efforts, their great efforts to control it. There is mistakes, but we learn from mistakes. We can admit that there is mistake. We learn from mistakes, and we also, alhamdulillah, achieved a great success, especially when you see this happen, and all the people come and feel safe. Alhamdulillah.
Although roughly 88% of the overall population has been fully vaccinated, residents who took other vaccines aside Pfizer are encouraged to take booster shots to strengthen their immunity. From Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, Maiwa Deguke for Channels Television News.
And Maiwa, who packaged that report, is joining us from Dubai. Hi, Maiwa. I mean, it's looking like there's almost no COVID in the UAE. Over 21 million vaccine doses administered so far. How much more to go, and especially how this, applies to visitors to the country?
Millicent, I must say that you're almost right. It does feel like COVID is gone. And I think that government is trying to make sure people don't get carried away by the low cases that we have and make sure that people are still following the protocol, because that's the only way the country can return fully to normal. So that's the situation that we find ourselves in. Roughly 88% fully vaccinated, about 12% to go. And I'm sure that in the next couple of months, the UAE will hit the mark because, they're really looking to get back fully into normalcy and pre-COVID times. The question now is how soon the UAE would announce that we don't have to wear masks anymore. I'm sure it's still some time to go, but that's on a lot of people's minds.
Tell us more about the Green Pass requirement and how is the government monitoring events, venue capacities to ensure that they are complying to the existing restrictions?
So the Green Pass is found on the app. So there's the app, the Al Hosn app, which is one of the apps we have in the country. Residents should have it, tourists as well, because when you come in as a tourist, you're given a unique identification number that's linked to the app as well. And this monitors all your COVID activities. For instance, when you do a PCR test, when you've been vaccinated, all of that is documented on the app. So when the app shows that it shows green, it means that you're good to go, really. And that's what the Green Pass means.
Also, perhaps away from that, it seems the UAE prefers the Pfizer vaccines to all the others. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, that's not an official position. At least it's not been officially stated. But we have noticed that with the people and even the system, that there is some level of preference for the Pfizer vaccine. For instance, people who took a double shot of Sinopharm, for instance, are being asked to take booster shots. Of course, you will have to get checked and evaluated, but people are being encouraged to come back for booster shots, and most of them are Pfizer shots. So that's not an official position, but we have noticed that preference.
What are reactions on Pfizer being approved for children from ages 5 to 11 in the country?
With the UAE, I think we've had an interesting dynamic in the sense that a lot of people do trust the government. So you see this huge level of trust that people have for the government, and they, feel like, if the government has checked this, they've made sure that it's good. For some people, they're saying, okay, that's good enough for them. And there's still some people, because we've interacted with a few parents, for instance, who say, if I don't have to, I wouldn't. So you still have people who are deciding not to go ahead in vaccinating their children, for instance. But overall, there's a lot of acceptance and willingness to cooperate with the government.
But it's not official that there are perhaps vaccine mandates, for example.
No.
All right, Maiwa Digoke, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us and take care.
Thanks, Millicent.